Okay, we're up to Tes Zayin Amid Beis. Tes Zayin Amid Beis. Tonight we're finishing the Perek. We're finishing the Agoda of the Megillah, and we'll be getting back to the halachas of the Megillah. Okay, we're up to. You see the Tosfos Tzarich Loimer Menashima Achas that you have to say it. Tes Zayin Amid Beis. So we're up to parallel to the Tosfos Tzarich Loimer Menashima Achas. It says Bolufnei Amelech Omar Imat Sefer. That's what the pasuk says. Right? That's what the pasuk says. Omar to say Amra mi boile. She said. So Rabbi Yochanan Amra Loi Yoma Bepeh Mashakasa B'Sefer. They should say in your mouth what's written in the Sefer. We're going to see that you're not allowed to read it al peh. You're not allowed to read the Megillah al peh. It says Divrei Shalom v'emes. The pasuk in Perek Tes pasuk Lamed says the Davar Shalom v'emes. Amar Tanchem v'imila Amar Rav Yosi Melamed shetzricha sirtut ke'amita shel Torah. Now sirtut are the lines that you find on klaf. What? Yeah, it's the lines you find on the klaf. So over here it's mashma that the Megillah needs sirtut ke'amita shel Torah. So if you look at Rashi on the left side. Rashi says four lines down, four lines down. Kamita shel Torah, Kesefer Torah atzmai, and Sirtut is Allah L'mash Misinai. Rashi's shita is that a Sefer Torah requires Sirtut, that it requires those lines. That's Rashi's shita. But if you notice Rabbi Kiva Ega, his sign, he shows the Tosfos and Daf Lamed Beis and Menachos, and we also in Gittin. And he says that in fact the Sefer Torah does not require Sirtut. The only thing that requires Sirtut is the mezuzah. He says it's a mezuzah. So depending upon how you learn, whether it's Torah or mezuzah, that will influence the way we can learn Pshat in the words of the Gemara. Light Rashi that says shetzricha sirtut, that a Megillah needs sirtut, is kamita shel Torah, like Rashi said, like a Sefer Torah mamish. However, light Tosfos, amita shel Torah means mezuzah. Mezuzah Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which is the amita shel Torah, that Hashem is Echad. So therefore, that would be according to Tosfos. It's Rabbeinu Tam Shita, very famous Shita Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos, whether Sefer Torah requires a sirtut. So the things we need require sirtut. Then they are mezuzah and Megillah. Those are givens. Yes.
I never noticed the word in the Sefer Torah.
Yes, absolutely, they do. Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. The Sefer Torah. But so now, if you go to a Sefer Torah, they do have lines, right? It says, guys, shmak b'shat. Guys, listen, beautiful b'shat. When you need sirtut, that means if you wouldn't have it, it would be ma'akiv. In other words, if the mezuzah doesn't have those lines, it's not a mezuzah. If the Megillah doesn't have those lines, it's not a Megillah. The Sefer Torah has the lines, Zeh Keli Van Veu, they should write straight, but it would be a kosher Sefer Torah. In other words, the sirtut there is a practical thing, that the ksab should come out beautiful, that it should have lines. So that's why it has lines. Practically, right? It makes it easier to go ahead, right, and straight, but not because you do need it. But Mandy, next time, you'll look next time. I figure you must have got. You must get one or two aliyahs in your life. Mendy happens to be a kohen, or maybe a kohen. But I'll whatever the suffix is, they don't know. But he's still getting a lot of aliyahs. Okay, so you hear, guys, you hear the difference. If it's a din and sirtut, it'll be ma'akiv. It won't be a mezuzah. It won't be a Megillah unless you have it. Conversely, the Sefer Torah has it. It's not a din in the Sefer Torah. It's a din in Zeh Keli Van Veu. It's not befun of the Sefer. No, you should have a nice Sefer Torah. They should have the lines. Thank you very much for being ma'ara. Very nice pshat. Amar of Tanchum ve'imila Amar of Asi Malami. Okay, we did that. Umayme Esther. It says Mayme Esther. Kayim Mayme Esther in Divrei Tzaimes Loi. What do you mean? It says in the pasuk they're Mekayim the words of Esther, just the words, and not the fists. We know they do are Mekayim the fist. So Rabbi Yochanan, Divrei Tzaimus Umayme Esther Kayim. Mekayim both the fist and the Maimer of Esther. It says Hapurim es Kol Hapurim es Purim Eila is Divrei Hapurim. Divrei Hapurim Eila Ki Mordechai Yehudi Mishnah LaMelech HaChashverosh v'Godla Yehudim v'Rotzei L'Roiv Achav V'Loi L'Chal Achav. He was accepted by only some of them, but not all of them. Malamed shepirshu mimenu Miksa Sanhedrin. That the Miksa Sanhedrin went ahead and was pirish from him.
Didn't Esther start the Tanis?
No, this is the Tzoimais. This is it's telling over, this is afterwards. It's the end of the Megillah where it says after the story is over, it's saying what we should do. Saying what should do. That was the Maimer of Esther is that to write the Megillah down. The Maimer, obvious, to write the Megillah down. Okay? Anyway, so if you look at Rashi says that what? Since he stopped learning and he took a position of prominence, so some people of the Sanhedrin, it doesn't say a minority, it says Roy Sanhedrin did not hold it against them, but a minority did. And now we have 3 Maimorim about Torah. Amar Rabbi Yosef, Gadol Talmud Torah Yosem Me'atzolos Nefashos. Right? Learning Torah is greater than saving Me'atzolos Nefashos. Nemeikara Choshev Leila Mordechai Basid Dalid. Initially, when they're recounting the people who came up after the Golus Bavel, remember, the majority of Klal Yisrael did not come up. After Golus Bavel, the majority of Klal Yisrael did not come up. They were led, however, by the ones that came out, were led by Zerubbabel. So it says, first he's counted by Dalit, in the end he's counted by after fourth, and then after 5. Basa Chamesh. Meikara Ksiv, Asher Bo im Zerubbabel, they came with Zerubbabel, let's count. Yeshua is 1, Nehemiah is 2, Soroya is 3, Re'elia is 4, Mordechai Balshin, he's counted after 4. Well, of a Seif Kasiv, it says, Haboyim im Zerubbabel, they came with Zerubbabel, Yeshua, Nehemiah, Azariah, Ra'amya, and Nachmani, and then what? It says Mordechai Balshin. So he's counted now after 5. So you see that Meikara, that he was Talmud Torah is more than Atzalos Nefashos, because Meikara he was after 4, and then afterwards he was counted after 5. Now what does Meikara mean? Let's see Rashi. Meikara be Meikarish. Karish the Great. Again, we would go through we know the people. We had the kings. We had Nebuchadnezzar, Evel Merudach, Belshazzar. Those were the kings of the Babylonia. Then we had the person Madai going ahead and joining forces, and we had Daryavish the Madai, the first Daryavish, and then we had Karish the Great, Cyrus the Great. So we made Karish K'sha'olazu Bavel min Goylo Mordechai Imai. Nimdu b'Sefer Ezra Chav Dalet Shana Haya ben Minyan leMinyan. We made Karish l'Daryavish Achroin. L'Vishanasa Mordechai Sar ben Tayim Yarimech Shivutz Eisel Chachamim. So since you see that he went down in prestige, therefore he was counted after less of an amount. Says the Gemara Vaita, Amrav Vitem Rav Shmuel Bar Marta, Gadol Talmud Torah Yosem Binyan Beis Hamikdash, Shekol Zman Shebaruch ben Neriah Kayim. The whole time that Baruch ben Neriah was alive, Le'yinichu Ezra did not leave him for Allah. Ezra only came up 7 years after Ezra remained to learn Torah by what? By Baruch ben Neriah. You'll ask, why didn't Baruch ben Neriah himself go up? Because he was the Navi we mentioned. It's because he was old. In Shir HaShirim, the Medrash Shir HaShirim says he was old and he couldn't go up. So Ezra held it more chashiv to learn Torah and be next to Baruch ben Neriah than to go build the Beis Hamikdash. And Rabbi Yitzchak says Abba in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak by Shmuel Bar Marta Gadol Talmud Torah Yosem Mikibud Aveim. Greatest Talmud Torah Mikibud Aveim. And we're going to go through, guys, a whole cheshbon until the end of the parak is going to be a mathematical cheshbon that Yaakov Avinu. I'm giving you the maskana. Yaakov Avinu is held accountable for not going ahead and being with his parents for 22 years. He was separated from them for 36 years. But in fact, he's only counted 22 because we're going to detract 14 that he learned in Yeshiva Shem Be'ever. So you see, the 22 years that he wasn't there is held that he was not mechabed his parents. He wasn't mechabed his parents. He's worried when he comes back to Esav. Why? The pride. Esav had the mitzvah of kivud of aim, and he says because maybe he used it up. He was 22 years he was away. He was really away for 36. Why did he only consider 22? The 14 years that he was learning Torah as lo ola b'cheshbon does not count towards the mathematical sum. So therefore, that is till we get there, guys. Is the rest of the parak. But you got the bottom line. The bottom line is that we see the fact, how do you see Gadol Tamid Mekiv of aim? The fact that the 14 years he was learning by Shem Evid, Talmud Torah is not considered a chasar and a kiva of aim and the Baba is the punishment. Connected the 22 years that he was separated from his father, Yosef was separated from Yaakov 22 years. That was the punishment, and that's the cheshbon we're going to keep now. So for people like arithmetic, this is a very nice Gemara. For people who don't, you can wake up in about 5 minutes. Okay, so that's the Gemara. So guys, this is a very, very pashut mathematical cheshbon. Why do we have to know how long Yishmael lived? Of what purpose is it? In other words, Bishlam, he was a tzaddik. It's enough to tell me he was a tzaddik. I have to know how long a tzaddik lives. Yishmael was this kind of tzaddik. He wasn't a tzaddik. So how long? Why do we have to know how long you live? Lama nimnu shnoisav shel Yishmael. It says Yaches ben shnoisav shel Yaakov. Go ahead and figure out the years of Yaakov at certain tekufas in his life. From the years of Yishmael's life, we're going to ascertain how old Yaakov was at a certain period of time, and that'll give us the cheshbon of 22. Okay, the Chsiv says Ve'elu shnei chai Yishmael ma'ash shana u'shloishim shana v'sheva shana. That's 137. Guys, 137. If you want to have a pen and pencil, it might be helpful. That's 137. Kama koshesh Yishmael miYitzchak. Exactly how much older was Yishmael, the older brother, than Yitzchak? How much older was he than Yitzchak? Is Arbisa Shnin. He was 14 years older. The Chsiv, the Avram ben Shmoyna Shana b'Sheish Shanim b'Ledes Hagares Yishmael. Avram was 86 years old when Yishmael was born. The Avraham. Ukasiv v'Avraham ben Ma'ash Shana b'Hoylid Loi es Yitzchak b'no. So guys, very geschmack, okay? So if he was 100 at the time of Yitzchak's birth and 86 at the time of Yishmael's birth, so the discrepancy between Yishmael and Yitzchak was 14 years. 86 plus 14 is 100. Good. Now, Ukasiv, for Yitzchak ben Shishim Shana b'Ledes Esam. When the twins were born, when Yaakov and Esau were born, it says in Parshas Toldos, it says that Yitzchak was 60 years old. Bar Kama Havi Yishmael Kid Isyali Yaakov. So when Yaakov was born, how old was Yishmael? He would be Bar Shivim v'Arba. He would be 74. Because again, he's 14 years older than Yitzchak. Yitzchak is 60 at the time of the birth of Yaakov. 60 and 14 is 74. Kama Paishin Mishnin, how many you have left over from his life? So 137 minus what? 74 is what? Is Shisin the class 63. Right? 137, guys, that's how long he lived. The Torah tells us. We know at the time of the birth of what? Of Yaakov, he was 74. He was 74. So 137 minus 74 will give you what? 63 years old. Okay. Now, Tanya, Yaakov Avinu b'shoshen is borech me'aviv. Right? How old was Yaakov when he got the brachas? Then Shishim u'shleishanim. He was 63 years old. Ubo b'perek meis Yishmael. At that time, Yishmael died. Yishmael died when Yaakov was 63 years old. The Chsiv, Vayar Esav ki barach es Yaakov, and Vayelech Esav el Yishmael. He goes to Yishmael. Vayikas es Machalas. He takes Machalas bas Yishmael. He takes the daughter of Yishmael Machalas in marriage. Achois Nevoyos, who was the sister of Nevoyos. So Nevoyos was her brother. Machalas' brother was Nevoyos. So Nevoyos was Yishmael's son. Imashra Shnemar bas Yishmael any idea shehi Achois Nevoyos. Right? If we know that it was the brother, so certainly it was the sister. So Malamed Shekitcha Yishmael. Yishmael was Mekanish Machlas to Esav, but he didn't live to the wedding. Umes, and he died. Ve'sia Nevoyas Achia, and her brother married her off. Right now, Shisin Utlas Rabisa ad Dimisyal de Yosef. Another 14 years till Yosef was born. Right, that 14 years. Hashivim, right? Hashivim Shiva. It should be what? In 14 years and 63, right? He should have been 77. Uksiv, Yosef ben Shloisha Shonim, Ba'amdu Lufnei Paro. And Yosef was what? Was 30 years when he stood in front of Paro. Now, if you do 77, guys, that was, again, guys, Yaakov's years, 63, 14 years of Yosef, 63 and 14 is 77. And now Yosef was 30 years old when he stood in front of Paro. So again, if Yaakov was 77 at the time of Yosef's birth, 30 years later, he'd be 107, right? He'd be 107 years old. And we know Yosef was 30 years when he stood in front of Parai. Now, V'sheva Shav, the Shiva, V'tati the Kafna, you had Sheva the Shiva, he had 7 years of good. And we know Yaakov came down in the second year of Beard, of the famine, is 9. So 9 and 107 would be 116. Hameya V'shitza, that's 116, guys, right? Okay, one more time, guys. 63 when he gets married, 14 years to the birth of Yosef, 77. Yosef's in Mitzrayim is 30 years, right? Heir to that, so that gives you what, 107. Yaakov comes down 9 years later, the 7 years of good, and then the 2 years of famine. It stopped until when Yaakov came down. So that gives us 107 plus 9 is 116. Yet when Yaakov came in front of Paro asked him how old he is. What did he say? 130. You're missing 14 years, guys, right? Why are you missing 14 years? That's 14 years, they're not coming to Cheshbon. Easy, not difficult math. Wait till, if you want Cheshbon, wait till Yavamis. Okay, it's around the corner. Don't worry. I wake up every morning with a little. No, don't worry. You got too much, Mendy. Then you leave for what? 3 months, 4 months? You stayed the last time?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're growing up. Oh, after all these years, you're growing up. Look at that.
Yeah, you told me I should go, so I went the last. This year I went. The last month.
Sheesh.
I did it.
Okay, I'm proud of you.
What did I got now?
Okay, fine. Who remembers these things? Anyway, I hear. Says, we don't have Eli to take attendance anymore. How old are you? I'm 130. Now he should only be like Archeshbin, he should only be 116. Good. He was 116. The 14 years he was in base Aver, like Chashav Lahu. That's not Chashav. So therefore, you got the Cheshbon perfectly, right? Perfect Cheshbon. The Tanya, Yaakov, the base Aver, Moitmin, he was hidden in base Aver, Arba Esrei Shana. Ava Mesla Achasher Yaakov Avinu Laram Narayim, Shtei Shanim, Yatzim Misham, Uboy Laram Narayim, Nimsa Kishamad, Alaber, Ben Shivim, Beshiva Shani, he was 77, that's 63, he was 77. When we know Loy Me'anish, how do you know he wasn't punished? The Tanya, Nimsa Yosef, Shapirish Me'oviv, Esem Mishtayim Shana, Kashem Shapirish Yaakov Avinu Me'oviv, Me'oviv, the Yaakov Tlisim Vishisin Have, El Abisa the Have. He was that Tlisim Shisa was 63, guys. He was away from his father 63 years, right? So why won't you say only 22? Ella Arbisa Davi base Aver, the 14 years he was in base Aver, that's not considered part of the Cheshbon. The base Lavan Esum Shnin Have, he was only 20 years in base Lavan, not 22 years. You do the math. He worked 7, stayed another 6. That's 20. He wasn't there 22. He delayed going back another 2 years. He came to Sukkos. He also Sham Shmoin Esrei. He was in Sukkos for a year and a year and a half, 18 months. Shnemar v'Yaakov Nisa Sukkosa v'Yivin LaBeis Bias uLeMikneu Asa Sukkos Beis El Asa Shisha Chadashim. So you add the 18 plus another 6 is 24. The Hikriv Zvachim, and he bought Zvachim, so therefore he was there a total lot of 2 years on the derech. So the punishment was Mida Keneged Mida. He was separated from his father 22 years. Yosef was separated from him 22 years. Hajan Lecha Megillas Nikras, Hajan Lecha Megillas Nikras, Hajan Lecha Megillas Nikras. Okay, very good. Good, guys. Good. It was easy math. It wasn't difficult math. Hakarias Megillah Mafreya Lo Yaitz. So let's say you read the Megillah out of order. You read it out of order, you're not Yaitz the Megillah. Kara al Peh, if you read it al Peh, you're not Yaitz. We said it has to be read from a Sefer. That was earlier. Kara Targim, if you read it in Aramaic, B'chalashan Lo Yatza, you're not Yaitz. Aval Kara Nisol Luazos Bilaz, the Luazos, the people who speak a foreign language, you could read it for them in a foreign language. But Nora's going to have to ask what's the difference between that and we said. The shama is shuris yaitza. So if a person and a person who's loyes, meaning he speaks, he doesn't understand, but he read from Ashuris yaitza. It's very, very wichtig that we always say that a person, you should always have a Megillah. If you read along, you have no problems. Whether you understand, you don't understand, whether you miss the word, you don't miss the word. If you're reading along from your own Megillah, it's a very, very good thing. Karis Sirugin, if you, let's say you read it in order, but you read it 5 minutes, you stop, you take a break, 10 minutes, you stop, you take a break. Sirugin means to skip. You're skipping, instead of flow, you skip. You don't skip the words, you just skip the times. In other words, instead 5 minutes, you read 10 psukim, 10 minutes later, you read the next 10 psukim, so you're going in order, but you're just doing it sirugin. Well, let's say you're doing it while someone's doing it and you're sleeping, like sleeping means you're nishtah here, nishtah there. You're not mamish sleeping, right? In the Snam we said that, you remind the person, he answers, but he doesn't answer, you remind him what he says, he'll remember, yatsa, you'll be yatsa. Hayakaisva, darsha, umagia. Let's say you're writing a Megillah, darsha, or you're darshan a Megillah, umagia, or you're correcting a Megillah, and it happens to be on Purim, it happens to be in the Zman of reading the Megillah. And kivin liba yaitza, if you mechavin leiv yaitza, we're going to get into the sugya about whether mitzvah is tzrichas kavana or not. The same sugya that we had by Tekiyah Shofar, right? In other words, here you want mechavin for the mitzvah, the mashma yaitza, it's mashma over here. The mitzvah is saying it's tzrichas kavana. So this is again a sugya that we just had in Rosh Hashanah regarding what? Regarding the blowing of the shofar. If you're blowing a shofar to learn whether you could be yaitza. From lavla yaitza, but if you're not mechavin, then you're not yaitza. Ha'isa ksuva Besam, ubesikra, uvakumu, kankantam. These are all different types of tree sap or red ink or a copper sulfate or different types of implements. No, that's not the word. I don't know the word. Alanir. What? No, there's a word. Oprimint. There's a word for ink. It's a fancy word that I once knew. Okay, again, it's not ma'akiv, guys. Pshat. Okay, let's waste. We need Yehuda, who for what? Anyway, the alaniyar or ala diftera, right? Lo yatsa. You can't be reading on paper. You can't be reading on diftera. That's not a good klaf. The Gemara will say what it is, right? But it has to be written. Asher kasuva ashuris. It's got to be written in ksav ashuris. Again, we saw. Lenny had showed us, he had posted the difference between Ashuris and Ivris. It's got to be what in Ashuris, ala sefer, on klaf, bidayoy with black India. The yoy is India ink. So the halachas of Megillah. One we saw already, it requires sirtut. Megillah requires sirtut, requires the lines. Two, it has to be on klaf, and B, it has to be in Indian ink. So those are for the base of Megillah, that's what it has to be. Okay, how do you know that if you read Lamafei, you're not Yaitza? So Marava Damakar, the Pasuk says, in Perik Tes Pasuk Chav Zayin, Kiksava Muchizmanam, Mazmanum Mafrei Eloi. Guys, you can't have 15 before 14, right? There's a sequence. Just like this man can't be before, and we make it so af ksavam, so too the ksav of the seif can't be written mat. Now this is about speaking about writing it, but even reading it Lamafrei. It says midi kriya ksivot. Hacha, asiya ksiva hacha. It doesn't say anything about kriya. It says about ksiva. The ksiv liyos oisim eshnei yomim ela. So therefore, it says liyos oisim eshnei yomim ela. It's written. That's lashon of asiya. The lashon of asiya. It's not speaking about the Megillah. It's speaking about the mitzvahs hayoim. It's speaking about the matanas of yoinim. It's speaking about the suda. That's asiya. Ela mehacha. The ksiv hayomim ela niskarim v'nasim. These days, Niskarim, as again, remember earlier from the Masechta, Niskarim is referring to the Kriyas of the Megillah. The Nasim is referring to the mitzvahs. Ishke Sechir Lasiya. Ma'asil Mafrei Lo, you can't go ahead and do the mitzvahs, right? You can't go ahead and be Yitzhak mitzvahs. We said, guys, remember the 14, 15 guys, 2 distinct days. 15s can make 14, 14 can make 15, right? It's 2 distinct days. Af Sechira, so to the Sechira, the Kriyas on Megillah, which is called Sechira, the Mafrei is not Yitzhak, and that's the source. The hekesh tuah to asiya. Tana, the same din that applies to mafreya. V'chein b'halel. Halel, if you read halel out of order, you're not yaitza. V'chein b'kriya shema. If you're laying kriya shema out of order, you're not yaitza. Ubetfila and huadin by Shmona Esrei Yom Piyaitza. So now the Gemara is going to digress from Megillah and discuss Lemafreya why, if you read Lemafreya by Hallel, by Kriya Shema, and by Tefillah, you're not Yaitza. Halami Nolan. So Rabbi says the Chsiv. It says me Mizrach Shemesh Ad Mevo. So it's mashma. The sun rises in the east. It's got to be Keseder, right? Mizrach, just like the Mizrach is Keseder from east to west, so too the Kriyas Hallel has to be from east to west. So again, different opinions of Amoraim as to the source why Hallel, you can't read the parshas of Hallel, the Tehillim of Hallel out of order. Rabbi Yosef Amar, Zeh Ayoim Asa Hashem. He says, Zeh Ayoim, like the Seder of the day, right? That you can't be Mishtana, you can't have the 5th hour of the day before the 10th hour, before the 3rd hour of the day. The 3rd hour is the 3rd hour of the day, the 5th hour is the 5th hour. So too the order of Tehillim cannot be out of order. So one, either as regards the sun, another allusion to the hours of the day. Rav Avya Omar, Hishem Hashem Mevayrach, the name of Hashem should be gebenched, right? Just like what? We bench Hashem, Ubarcha Kesidroi, Hishem Hashem Mevayrach, we bench what? Rashi says, Kavaisi Yehei Hilul, the bracha, just like the bracha of Hallel should be Keseder. This is the way it has to be. So again, you have 4 different opinions as to why Hallel has to be, but clearly Mafreya Hallel is not Yotza. The Mizmorim of Hallel have to be in the order that David wrote them. What? They disagree. Each one disagrees. I mean, each one has their source. Kriya Shema, the Tanya. Kriya Shema, how do you know Kriya Shema? So now we get a little more. This is Gemara and Brachis. It gets a little more. This is what we call a Tanoic tennis, back and forth. So what's the back and forth? He says reason, he says his reason. Why didn't he agree with him? Why didn't he agree with him? And so that we're going to go back and forth. That okay. So now the Tanya, because those are all divrei Kabbalah. Those. Here we're going to have the lashon of Torah. The Tanya Kriya Shema Kiksava. Now Kriya Shema is the Raisa. So Kriya Shema says Kiksava, the way it's written, which is Lashon HaKodesh, Divrei Rabbi. So therefore, the way it's written, that's the way it has to be read, and not L'mafreya. You can read it in any language. My time with the Rebbe that it has to be Lashon Kodesh. Again, we're going to get to L'mafreya. In this discussion, we're going to get to what? We're going to get to L'mafreya. Okay, it'll take us a little while, but we're going to get there. So now, Rebbe says it has to be written Lashon Kodesh. It says Kiksava. And the Chacham say no, any lashon you could say Kriya Shema in any lashon. My time with the Rebbe, Amakra Amid Beis, it says V'hayu Hadvrama Eila, V'hayu Hadvrama Eila, V'hayu Vayasan Yehei. This is the way, as I side. This is the way it has to be, the way it's written, and that's in lashon Kodesh. So too, you have to read it in lashon Kodesh. Rabbana, my timer that it can be Kriya Shema can be said in any lashon. Amakra, the pasuk says Shema. What does the Shema mean? The Chaloshin Shata Shemeya. Anything that you hear, you'll be yaitza. Anything that you would hear, you'll be yaitza. Fred the Gemara of a Rebbe Nami Hakasiv. What? Doesn't say that. Rebbe Nami Hakasiv Shema says, "Who be baile hishmiya la'azdecha mata mesh'atam mipicha." Says Rebbe, Shema just teaches me that I have to hear it. It doesn't tell me that it has to be read in any language. Rabbanon Savri Kimanda Amar. Why does Rabbanon do with Rebbe's Taina? They hold like the man the Amar Korea Shema v'lo yishmila. As if you read Shema and you don't hear it, yatz, it's no problem. Okay, so Rebbe learns from Shema that it has to be heard. The Chacham say it doesn't have to be heard, and therefore the Chacham used the Shema to teach me the Chaloshin. Now, what does the Chacham do with the Ksav of Rebbe? Rabban Nami Aksiv v'hayu. Rabban says v'hayu b'hayvasin yehei. It's got to be Lashon Kodesh. This is now we're getting around to why we brought this in the first place. This is the way it has to be. In this order, but not in any other order. But it could be in a different language, as long as it's in the right order. For Rebbe, Rebbe who uses Vahayu to teach me, it has to be in Lashon Kodesh. Where does he learn that it can't be written said Mafreya? It says Vahayu Hadvarim. It could have said Vahayu Divarim, guys. It could have said Vahayu Divarim, but it says Hadvarim, the extra hay, and therefore the extra hay teaches me. So Vahayu Hadvarim Eila teaches me it's got to be in Lashon Kodesh, and Hadvarim, the words in this order. Why does the Chachamim do with the extra hey? Then a mashma that this is the drush at all, and therefore what they need the hayid dvarim that is being mafreya. The bottom line is what? The bottom line is what do you see? Each one holds that it can't be lemafreya, right? Each one holds it can't be lemafreya. One from Bahayu, the other one from Hadavarim. Okay, but each one, so that's how we know. So Hallel, we have a Klukei Deis, whether from the sun, whether from the hours, whether from Amiyat Aloim, and we have a source for Kriyashma, either Bahayu Advarim Eila, or what? Or from Hadavarim. Now, what about now, guys, just to continue the digression, according to Rabbi, when it says this has to be read in Lashon Kodesh, it's mashma the rest of the Torah not. Because if the rest of the Torah has to be written in Lashon Kodesh, why would you need a limud for Kriya Shema? In other words, the big rule is the Torah will not tell me something that I already know. So if the rest of the Torah can be written in Lashon Kodesh and read in Lashon Kodesh, why would I need to teach me by Kriya Shema? And it must be the rest of the Torah cannot be, does not have to be. What halachis? The halachis of reading Chalitza, reading the Parsha of Chalitza, reading the Parsha of Eglah Rufa, reading Parsha Zachar, reading Parsha's Parah according to some deos. In other words, there's renditions that we have to say. So according to this, Rabbi says those can be in any language. They don't have to be in Lashon Kodesh. You know why? Because that it says V'hayu advarim. These have to be in Lashon Kodesh. Mashma those don't have to be in Lashon Kodesh. That's the inference of the Gemara. And the Gemara continues. It says V'hayu le'miksava Rabbi. Let's say le'miksava Rabbi. Kol Torah kula v'chol emra. The whole Torah was what? Was in any language. These salkadaitik Lashon Kodesh nemra, because it was in Lashon Kodesh. Lamali lemichtav. Why would it be necessary to write v'hayu? Why would it be necessary to write in these? That this has to be in Lashon Kodesh. Ella must be, the rest is not. So there's no raya. It's there. Maybe the whole Torah is in Lashon Kodesh. And why do you have to tell me by Kriya Shema? Salkadaitik, I would have thought Shama Kirabanon. I would say Shema is like the Rabbanon, that you only have to hear to your ears. In others, but not what? But not kasrachmana v'hayu, to say no, it has to be Lashon Kodesh. So in other words, you have no raya. Could be the whole Torah is also in Lashon Kodesh. Why v'hayu over here? Fuke, the opinion of the Chachamim that you just have to. Now, what? Again, don't pass him from this Gemara. Don't pass him from this Gemara. So let's say the rest of the Torah is in Lashon Kodesh. Why? These salkadaitach. Excuse me. These salkadaitach b'chol lashon nemra. Because if you're going to say it's in any lashon, lamali lemichtiv shma. Why would you have to say shma? You tell me shma, that what? It could be any language that you write, any language. Good. Why would you have to tell me here it could be any language? Mashmo lo, it's lashon kodesh. Says somewhere you have no raya, right? Says somewhere it's there. You have to tell me over here. Salkadaitach meaning v'hayu kirebi. I would think v'hayu rebi. That what dafka lashon kodesh kasrachman shma. It can be any language. Okay. Anyway, bottom line is you have no raya. But vis-a-vis the rest of the Torah. The final limit of Mafreya, we have a source for Megillah, we have a source for Hallel, we have a source for Kriya Shema, now we have a source for Tefillah. Okay. To facilitate understanding this, I'll give you a chart in a second. So guys, if you have your phones, get out your phones. If you don't have a phone, Mendy here. You don't have a phone, so yeah, this is for you. Okay. Now, tefillah, how do you know tefillah has to be what? In order. How do you know tefillah has to be in order? Tefillah mean no one. So the Tanya, Shimon HaPekuli, Shimon the cotton merchant, Rashi said he sold cotton. His their Shmoyne Esrei brachas, the Rabbi Gamliel. Now, we know, in fact, there's 19 brachas, guys. We know they added the bracha v'lamal shinim because they were heretics. But we still call it Shmoyne Esrei, despite the fact that it's Shai Esrei. It's really 19. But the original takana was 18, right? Originally, Shimon HaPekuli was Masad these 18 brachas ala Seder b'Yavna. Rabbi Yochanan, Vimila Masnis and Tana, Meya Vesas Sakanim, there were 120 Sakanim, Ubehem Kamen Neviim, and among them were what we called Neviim, Tikna Shemon Esrei. This was the Anshek Nesagadol, they Matak Shemon Esrei, Brachas al Seder. Okay, so now let's go through. The Gemara is going to go through all the Brachas Shemon Esrei, and let's go through the Limudim. So let's do it in this chart because it makes a lot of sense. It worked out really nicely. Okay, you have it on your phones? Okay, guys, you can see this? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now, here are the 19 brachas of Shemona Esrei, and this is what they're called. The first one is called Avos, of course. The second one's called Gevuros. The third bracha is Kedushas Hashem, Atachaynein, Hashivenu, which we call Tshuva, Bina, Tshuva. Okay, so we get an idea. And they're set up a seder of 3, 1, 2, 3. Then we have the latter 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, Avoda, that's what say. Then we have Modim, which is Haida, thanking, and then Sim Shalom. So these three, the 6 brachas are not unique. They're in every Shemona Esrei. The uniqueness of the 18 brachas, or 19, is the middle bakashais. The middle bakashais, which start from Bina, Tshuva, Salach Lanu, Geula, Rifa'enu, Parnas, Birchas Hashanim, Kibbutz Golias Tkab Shofar, Hashiva Shavtenu, Birchas Haminim, that's what Malshinim, Ala Tzadikim, Ben Yerushalayim, Es Tzemach David, Shemei Tefillah, and okay. These are the psukim that we know it from. In other words, this Gemara is a long-winded Gemara, but it's so yesodistic because it tells us which psukim they went and used to go ahead and create. So let's. I don't know if I can make this a little larger. I'm not sure. I probably will mess it up, but let me try to make it a little larger. Okay, you know what? I'll make it larger when we get there. So first, Avos. Havu Lashem b'nei Elim. This is the pasuk, the Makar.
We don't see it now, boys.
You don't see it? Okay.
No.
You got to see it now, right? Now you see it? Okay, so let's say the first pasuk is Havul Hashem b'nei Elim. B'nei Elim are the strong ones. That's the Avos. So now Hiskiu lefonav es tkifa sa'aretz shem Avos. We're mentioning in front of them the strong ones of the land, who are the Avos. So I'm going through the Makar, the pasuk with the little beer of the Gemara, guys. Tkifurais, right? Right after Havul Hashem b'nei Elim, David writes Havul Hashem kavod v'oz. Mendy, you're good with the chart over there. You can't even see it. You look at the Aleph. We're going by the Aleph and not a base now. And this is going down the base. Gevuros is Haval Hashem Kavod v'Ois. Ois is Gevura. Ois refers to Gevura, and that's the bracha Shniya, because it's the bracha that comes right after Avos. Next, Hishtachvul Hashem Adus Kodesh. We're still in the same capital of the Hillim, and it says Hishtachvul Hashem Adus Kodesh, and this is the third one, and it says bow down to Hashem Bahadus Kodesh. So we established Gevura, and since this is sequential in the parsha of the Hillim, therefore we've established till here. Now let's see if I can do a little. Okay, so now Atachaynein. Now this is Bina. It says V'ikdishu es Kodesh Yaakov V'eselokei Yisrael Ya'aritzu. Now so it says. The word Kodesh is the key over here, and then right afterwards it says the Samachle v'yedu toye ruach bina. So now you have bina coming right after Kodesh, guys. Here's Kodesh, and you have bina of Atachaynin following this. So that's will give us that sequence. And the Gemara was going to ask questions, but this is, you'll see. I think this is a very good way to go through it. Next, the pasuk says Ulavavoy Yavin Vishav. So now Yavin is bina. Vishav is tshuva. So here you go. Right after Bina, sequentially comes tshuva. Right after Bina comes tshuva. Next, V'yoshev el Hashem v'yirachameu, he returned to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ve'el elkeinu ki yarbe l'sloach. So now, V'yoshuv, the lashon of tshuva. Yes, guys, right? Lashon of tshuva. Then what does it say? Ki yarbe l'sloach. The lashon of slicha, which now explains why slach lanu final tshuva. Guys, you with me? It's good. Yes. Next is Geula, right? The Sidon Ligol B'Shvias. This is this, guys. This is the, what number bracha is this? This is, this is the 7th bracha. So the Geula is going to take place, what? The beginning of the Shemitah year. So therefore, it's the 7th bracha. Rifa'enu is keep, was on which bracha is that, guys? That is the 8th bracha, number 8. Given that since Mila was given on the 8th day, so we daven, you need refuah. It's relative, right? You never knew your whole life why you say these things. It's now, it says, right, Rafa'enu. You're saying Rafa'enu now on the 8th. You're saying Rafa'enu on the 8th because what? Because it's the day of what? Of Mila, the 8th day. Number 9 is the bracha of Parnasa. Why 9 the Parnasa? Is Keneged inflation. It's David writes, Shava Zroya Russia, break the Zroya of the Russia. David said this perik, right? That's the perik Shia Shel Tehillim. It's the 9th perik of Tehillim. And they're worried David's cursing people who go ahead and price gouge and cause inflation. That's why they make bracha Parnasa in the 9th bracha. The 10th bracha is the Kabbalah Shofar. The Atem Hari Yisrael Anafchem Titnu Uperichem Tisu La'ami Yisrael Kikarav Lavai. So this is the 10th bracha. Now I don't know exactly why that's the 10th bracha, but that is the 10th bracha. We have to see inside. Let's see if I can make this. Okay, the 11th bracha is Kivan Shniskapsu Golias. Once the Golias is gathered in, then we need what? Hashem judges the Rishayim. So it says Hashiva Shavteinu. That now they interjected. Once the din is being done for the Rishayim, you might as well chaprain the minim, and there you go. And then al tzadikim, since there's no more Rishayim anymore because they were judged, right? So right, what do you have al tzadikim? Now you have all the tzadikim. Now once you have tzadikim, now right, where's the Misraimis? Where the tzadikim were elevated? Misraimis, that's in Yerushalayim. Heichem Misraimis Karnam is Yerushalayim. Now once you build Yerushalayim, we want David back, right? Once David shows up, right, then Vayosim al Har Kodshi, HaKadosh Baruch will bring us to the Beis Hamikdash, the Simachtim the Beis Tefillah, and that's Lashon Shmei Tefillah. But say once you have Tefillah, you have Avodah Elosehem, B'Sivcheim L'Ratzon Al Mizbechi. Your all your karbanos will be accepted, and Moedim. Once we do avoda, we thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as it says, Zayveach Toida Yichabdeni. Those who are Zayveach Toida, they go ahead and they bring a carbon Toida, they mechabed me. Bichas Kahanim, why is it over there? It says, because it says once they do the avoda, then they bench Klal Yisrael, and then once you bench Klal Yisrael, it says, with Somesh Shmi al Bnei Yisrael, I'll go ahead and place my name in Klal Yisrael. So now I'm going to leave it up. And let's go through it, and you can refer to it. I think it's a Gavaldiga thing, right? You'll see it makes a big difference rather than just reading a bunch of words. Once you see it, it's good. That you have to go to another share. If you want color and long, you have to go to another share. But what? Shalom Rav, because they daven Ashkenaz. Sim Shalom. It's Shalom Rav. It's Shalom. It's by Shalom. It's Shalom Rav. Okay, now, let's go, guys. Let's go now. Tarabanan. Smack in the middle of the page. Tarabanan. Minayin Shomim Avay Shnemar Havul Hashem Bnei Elim. Right, Elim is the Avay. So Minayin Shomim Gvur Shnemar Havul Hashem Kavav Ois. Right, that's the Ois. The strength is what's Gvura, and that follows afterwards. There you go. So why do we say, guys? Why do we say Atachayne after kedusha? It says Vikdishu es Kodesh Yaakov es Elohei Yisrael Yaritzu v'samechlei v'yedu toyei ruach bina. So right, guys, look, we showed you before bina comes after kedusha on the chart. Here's the dollar Vikdishu, and then the kedusha comes. It says bina right afterwards. Why are we right to say tshuva after bina? Why do we say hashivenu? Dechsev u'levava yavin v'shav. It says levava yavin v'shav. So first you're gonna have levava yavin. First you're gonna have bina. Then v'shav you will have what? You will have tshuva. Now the pasuk says u'refoloi. So now if it says refoloi after that, it's not on the chart, guys. But look, guys, look. Look at the chart. It says levava yavin v'shav. It says v'rafa. So why is Rafa'enu all the way over here? We should pop it up. Right? Says the Gemara, Hachi, Leim Rafua Basra the Tshuva. After you say Hashivenu, the 5th bracha, you should say the 8th bracha Rafa'enu, because the pasuk says Ulevava Yavim V'Shav V'Rafaloi. It's not written over there, but Rafaloi. So going in that sequential order, we should put what Rafa'enu over there. Says Malay Salkadaita to do that. Tichsiv V'Yashav El Hashem V'Rachameu B'Elokenu Kiyar B'Elsnoyach. And therefore, why we put slicha right after v'yashav Hashem, right after tshuva, we're going to put slicha. When my chas is the samcha aha samcha, I got a choice, guys. Look at the chart. Hey, it says make believe there's a fictitious referral, so I could put Rafeinu over here, and I have the pasuk v'yoshev alkeinu v'yachmeu. I have this pasuk. So why did I choose opt for this pasuk rather than that pasuk? Since I have my druthers, why did I opt for one over the other? Says the Gemara. Samechaha kasav kroachrina. This is the third pasuk. Hasalech l'chol avonechi, harofi l'chol tachlechi. He'll be right for all your sicknesses. Hagoyel mishachas chayechi. Remember the geula refuah basaslichi. I've aksiv shav rafaloy. Who lav refuah dachlois. That's not refuah. This is not speaking about the refuah of sicknesses. It's speaking about refuah avat aslicha. Omar roy loy magula b'shviyah. So why do you say gula in this number 7? Why is Reina the Gal Yisrael in the 7th place? It says, since the Gula is going to take place in the Shemitah year, the Fikach, therefore, Kavu, we went ahead and was Kaveya in the 7th bracha. The Fikach Kavu B'Shvias. V'amar B'Shishas Kailash, in the 6th year, there'll be Kailais, B'Shvias, Melchamas, there'll be wars, but Moshe Shvias ben David Ba. It says, so L'chayr should come in the 8th year. It says, Melchamanami is Chalta the Gula. Melchama is the beginning of the Gula. Why do we say the 8th bracha? Why do we say Rafeinu? Some Ravachim Nasna Mila b'Shminis. Since Mila was giving in the 8th, shetzrich refuah that you need refuah for the fikach chavu b'Shminis. Therefore, they become what in the number 8 slot. Why do we put a what? Kenny, this is for you. Why do you put it in Raja Maris slot? Why do you put it in number 9? Says the Gemara, I'm a Rabbi, Alexandra, Kineged Mafkiye Sharim, Kineged people who go ahead and they go ahead and elevate the inflation. The Chsiv Shavru Zroya Russia, the David Kiyomer B'Tshiyasam. We said it in the 9th capital. Umar Roy Loima Kibbutz Goliath. Why do we say Kibbutz Goliath? La'ache Bechas Hashanim. The Chsiv Be'atim Hari Yisrael Anafchem Titnu Uperchem Tisu La'ami. Okay, Yisrael Kikarvu Lavoi. The Kimmich and Skaps, I guess Yisrael ki karvu lavoi, the carve to come. Guys, that's the pasuk, right? Look, the end of the pasuk. Kibbutz Goliath ki karvu lavoi, they're close to coming. Right there you are. Ki karvu lavoi. So now the Kimmich and Skaps Goliath, nice to din b'Rishayim. Once the Goliaths are in, so you'll have the next number Yud Aleph. You'll have them being judged Rishayim. Shenemar for Shivu Yodei Alayich Etzreif Kibor Sigayich, and I'll go ahead and cleanse what from you your psilis. Uksiv vashivu shavtayich marishayna. The kimin shenase din min harishayim kolu apaishim v'kolu zeidim imohem. And that's going to take care of the malshinim. Shnemar v'sheva paishim v'chatom yachtov. The kimin shekolu hapaishim. Once you get rid of the paishim, misroim muskeren tzadikim. That's what you gimel at tzadikim. You're going to go ahead and raise the what at tzadikim. Uksiv v'cholkani rishayim agadeya. I cut them down from the menu kind of tzaddik. I'll raise the Karen of the tzaddik. The koil geri had tzedek im tzaddikim. Shenemar they say v'talkim without the pnei zaken. The samachlei v'chiyar yagari chager, so the ger will also be included there. Ve'echim Yisrael. Where Karnam? Where is the Karen? Where they're elevated? Yerushalayim. So therefore, it makes sense. After tzaddikim, we have the bin Yerushalayim. Shenemar shalu shalom Yerushalayim. Yishalu. Nice song. Shalom avayach. It's right. The Kivin Shenivna Yerushalayim, but David, once when Yerushalayim is built, David's going to come. Shenemar Amid Aleph, Achi Yeshuva Bnei Yisrael, Bikshu Es Hashem Elo Kehem. There's David Malcolm. The Kivin Shabbat David, Bosset Tefillah. Once David comes what Tefillah? Shenemar Rav Yosem L'Had Kochi V'Simachna Beis Tefilasi, and the Avodah, the Tefillah is Avodah in Yerushalayim. The Kivin Shabbat Tefillah Bois Avodah. Once you have Tefillah, you have the Beis Hamikdash. You will have what Avodah do the Karbanis. Shenemar the same as if Chaim Lerotzon on Mizbechi, they'll be accepted willingly on my Mizbeach. The Kivin Shabbat Avodah Bois Toida comes to thankful Hashem. Shenemar Zayveach Toida Yechabdeni. Zayveach first the lashon of Avodah Zayveach, and then Toida the lashon of Moedim. Why do we say it there? He came down. He came down from doing the chatas. Says maybe he blessed him before that. Says he came down from doing the avodah. If he did the avodah, then it makes sense that the birchas kahanim should be after the avodah, not before. He didn't come down to do the avodah. He came down from doing the avodah. So guys, look at the chart. So why do you wait? If the birchas kahanim after the avodah, why don't you say it between moedim and hoidah? guys, why did you put it over here? If you told me you came after the avodah, let's take this and chuck it up into that slot. It says the sieve right? So it says once you bring your zevach, you say toida. You have another pasuk to say you should do it after after Ritzei. Says then they'll see it's one thing. Finally, somewhere Shmial Bnei Yisrael Ani Avarachem. Bracha da Kodesh Baruch Hu Shalom. Shneimar Hashem V'rach Sam Yisrael B'Shalom. Okay. Okay, well, I guess we'll stop over here.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Rabbi. Thank you.
I really think there's one more line. We really should do one more line. It says the Gemara, when it says the Chimiachad the Meir Besim Zakanim Umehem Kamen Neviim Tiknu Tefillah Seder. This would happen earlier. Shimon Apikuli Maya his this. Shimon Apikuli, which came much later. Well, what did he do? It says no Shochem. It was forgotten v'chos b'sodron, and he brought them back. Then you can't go ahead and change and add. No, Shimon Apikuli guys brought back. But the Anshe Kedosh Agdol have been taken, they brought back.
Thank you very much.
Thank everyone for listening. Before Shlema to all those people who are sick.
Yeah, I got COVID again.